All right, just now to give us his reaction from Capitol Hill on the AIG bonus story is Congressman Randy Neugebauer of the 19th District of Texas. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us here on Fox Business. Hey, explain to your constituents in Lubbock, in Big Spring, why they got to tolerate this.
Well, Brian, it's hard to explain, and I think more importantly, it's hard to let them know exactly when all of this is going to be over. We knew that AIG was underwater, and I think the big question today is how much more underwater are they today than they were when we began to get involved in this entity. And certainly these bonuses on top of, a $65 or $62 billion loss last quarter don't give our people back in West Texas much confidence.
Anything you can do about it?
Well, certainly we're going to have a hearing on Wednesday, and we obviously got the CEO of AIG coming, and one of the questions that I think needs to be asked is, have they changed their business model? Because it's this very business model that got them underwater and has forced the American taxpayers to have to make a substantial investment in this entity. And so I think that's got to be one of the top questions is what are they doing to change this business model, because now they are a TSC. They're a taxpayer-supported entity, and when you do that, you have new shareholders, and unfortunately the new shareholders are the American taxpayers, and the American taxpayers want answers to these questions.
And what Mr. Ed Liddy says, who's the chairman, and to be fair to Mr. Liddy, I mean, he's fairly new, and a lot of these contracts and payment guarantees were put into place long before he got there. And he says, listen, we're contractually obligated. Congress has said, they're contractually obligated. Well, Congress, it seems like we have sort of a pick 'em and choose 'em, if you will, on which contracts are going to be honored, because it doesn't seem like anybody has a problem violating some of the mortgage contracts that are out there. Why do we believe this?
Well, I think that's a great question, and one of the things that we have to do is sort through this whole situation and find out exactly where we are with AIG, because one of the concerns I have is that we are postponing the inevitable, and are these losses actually getting larger, and will they get larger in the future? Or should we begin to look at ways to minimize, and is the company doing things that would help reduce the risk or future risk for the American taxpayers? That's the compensation system that I want. I want to compensate those people for taking care of the American taxpayers' money. The American taxpayers want to know when they're going to get their money back, and more importantly, they want to know when they're going to get off the hook for all of these entities.
And let's be fair, okay, because there are thousands of people at AIG, and I've argued for Wall Street bonuses in the past. I'm not changing my tune, because I think a lot of these people think the term bonus is a little misleading. A lot of these secretaries, back office staff, it's part of their compensation. They're paid more like commission salespeople than they are, Wall Street bankers. But why can't Congress go in and say to the people that were in that small couple hundred-person unit in London that really has done most of the damage to AIG, that those are the folks that won't get paid because they're the ones that caused the trouble? Why is that so hard?
Well, I think one of the questions I have is why those people are still on the payroll. I think that's the bigger question. In other words, I think we have to go back to the business model, analyze, are they still using the same business model? Are these people still doing the same things they were doing prior to the federal intervention? And you make a great point. And I think those are the questions that management needs to let us know. I think what we need here and all across the TARP and all of these bailouts, we need to know what the exit strategy here is, because that's the most important question that I think is presented by the American taxpayers today is how do we get out of this situation, and how long are we going to be here, and do we have a compensation system that helps the situation get better and not continue to reward people that made bad decisions?
And how do we do that? What's the answer to that?
Well, I think we bring the management in and we tell them they need to bring us, Congress, a business plan now, a business model, show us how people are going to be compensated, what their business plan is to begin to minimize the losses to the American taxpayers, and then ask them to establish and let us approve a compensation system that accomplishes that goal, because that's the #1 goal.
But should Congress be doing that anyway? And I argued earlier that Congress should get paid based on how well you guys do against a GDP benchmark. Basically, you get commission if you beat GDP by a couple of percent. Why not support that? Why shouldn't Congress get paid like Wall Street?
Well, that's a great question. I think, one of the things, we shouldn't be in this position. The American taxpayers didn't ask to be put in this position. I voted not to put the American taxpayers in this position. And so I think as moving forward, my goal is trying to figure out a way to get the American taxpayers out of the jam that they're in with these entities. And certainly this AIG is one that troubles me more than just about any of them right now. But when you bring the American taxpayers in there, you get intervention by the government, because the government is the steward of the taxpayers' money. And so I don't particularly like government involved in the private sector, but this is no longer a private sector entity. It's basically, as I've been saying, these are taxpayer-supported entities, and as a representative of the taxpayers, my job is to hopefully make sure that we do the best job we can to make sure they get their money back.
Well, Congressman, you're going to want to watch Fox News Channel and Fox Business tonight, because at 4 and at 6, Neil Cavuto, our very own Mr. Cavuto, has got Hank Greenberg, the former chairman of AIG, exclusively on his program. So you might want to watch that in Capitol. You might get some insight into what a guy who's, a lot of people don't like Mr. Greenberg because they say, well, he helped build this. You know what? Nobody's gotten wiped out more than that guy.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Congressman Randy Neugebauer, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Let's get a check on the market and go to Nicole Petalides at the New York Stock Exchange. Nicole, I asked the congressman if he'd support that, GDP